Hey everyone, welcome back. This is part 13 of this series and possibly the last installment. Believe it or not, we're so close to finishing this cartoon. There's just a few more shots to add in. I'll finish up editing things and making a few small fixes here and there, and we'll be ready to release Miserable Mac Episode 2. This is phenomenal for me, and it makes me excited to see what I'll be able to do differently and better in the upcoming projects that I'm planning. Unfortunately, if this turns out to be the last episode of this animating commentary series, then there might be a slight chance that there's a gap in between video releases. I'm hoping to avoid this, and I am working hard this week, or really the week prior to this being released, to figure out what content I should focus to push out before I leave for a week-long vacation. If possible, I'll have something set up for Wednesday and Friday, and if things don't pan out, I'll go ahead and apologize right now, and we'll plan to be back on track next Monday, or the 10th. A little later on, I'll try and touch on some of the ideas that I'm having, and maybe we can get some feedback of what you'd like to see. So right now, we're doing almost exactly what we did for Jamie in the previous episode, but with Mac. A lot of this is pretty much identical. We're doing lip syncing first, which will go by much quicker than it has in the past. It's phenomenal. And then we'll be animating the eyes and the eyebrows, doing their thing, and then we'll make the whole head move throughout the conversation. Having only utilized Keyframe Caddy for a very short period of time, I'm still learning it and haven't found the most optimized way of using all the shapes. I think perhaps what I'll end up doing for lip syncing moving forward is just include a huge library of different mouth shapes that are all different from one another. I mean, that's absolutely how you're supposed to use it. But what I have right now is sort of transitioning, different mouths transitioning from one shape to another. And so I have a lot of redundant shapes that probably could just be taken out, and that'll hopefully allow me to spend a lot less time clicking all over the place looking for the right shapes. I feel like some people might argue that going about lip syncing this way is sort of cheating, or not the most professional way of doing it, and that you need to spend just as much time on this stage of the process as you do with the rest. But I'd say that if the end result is comparable, then that time that you would have been spending on the lip syncing can be better utilized at either finishing the animation sooner or spending more time on the rest of the project. I don't know for sure, but let me know what you think. So we've moved on to working on the eyebrows. And this is all very straightforward. I only had to draw a few additional frames, and the rest was copied and pasted from earlier. I'm not sure how prevalent this style of animation is, as I haven't kept on with a lot of what's been being released online or on Newgrounds in the past year or so, but I really like having the jumpy look to the movements. Now, to be clear, not stuttering or out of place looking, but just bouncy or jumpy. Like with the eyebrows. There's a frame or two where they'll move up or they'll move down before they move up, and then vice versa. You know, honestly, not knowing what things are like makes me kind of want to go explore. So perhaps by the time you watch this video, I'll have a better understanding of what online Flash animation is like nowadays. Obviously, everyone has their own style, but I feel like I probably didn't get the style on my own, that I've been influenced by something or things over the years. So if I had caught up with things, maybe my style would be even different. Or would have changed over time even more. One thing that I've always had a hard time doing is keeping the lines looking straight and not messed up by the vector math stuff that's doing the calculations. And that's why I opted for the more jaggy lines in this cartoon, just because I didn't have the know-how or finesse to make the smooth lines look good. I've been experimenting with this a little bit on the side, and if I can figure it out, I'd like to start using smoother lines moving forward. And I guess that makes for a pretty great transition into talking about what I'm going to be working on next. So obviously, there's Miserable Mac Episode 3, which I'll start working on as soon as I can. But of course, I'll have to get all the voice acting done and finalize the script and storyboard work. So starting an animating commentary series on it might actually be delayed for a couple of weeks, before I actually have some footage to show for it. In the meantime, I've decided to go ahead and start a Basics of Flash for Animation miniseries. I asked for some feedback on this, but given that not a whole lot of people watch this channel. I didn't really get any, but I figured I might as well do it anyways. The series will cover the tools needed for animating, how to navigate Flash and use some of its unique features for the purpose of animation, creating a simple animation, and sort of the final steps portion. Now, to be clear, this isn't an animation guide. That might come at a later point, once I've amassed the skills to teach some basic animation principles. Rather, this is a guide to how to use Adobe Flash for the purpose of animation. It's sort of tackling things from a broader perspective. We're looking at 4 to 5-ish parts, and yeah, that'll be showing up soon. The second project that I have in the works is an intro to another series that I'm playing around with. I really like doing intros for my cartoons, even if it's something that never gets included with the rest of the cartoon. It's just something that I like to do. They're kind of fun to animate. Originally, in a chapter book form back when I was in 7th or 8th grade, The Dungeon Chronicles is a story that I love to tell. This summer, I had picked it back up and rewrote a good chunk of it as a much older person, and that made me want to bring that over into a visual medium and maybe turn it into a series that's of some sort. We'll kind of have to see where things go with that, and it might turn into nothing, or it might be something. We'll just have to see. I've also had the thought of redoing the Miserable Mac intro for a 3rd time. We'll just sort of have to see if I go through with that. And yeah, those are all the things that I will be working on at one point or another in the future. Going back to what's on screen, we've moved on to the eyes now, and again, it's a fairly straightforward process. It doesn't take a lot of effort, and it's just moving things into the correct spot. And we'll still occasionally get those weird expressions with the eyes pointing in different directions, which is always fun. So I'm just gonna kind of let this part play for a while, and I'll be back with more commentary in a little bit. Alright, so I think at this point we're pretty much done with the eyes and all the facial animation. I'm just playing it back right now to make sure that I haven't forgotten anything and that it all looks good and it plays smoothly. From here, we'll be moving on to the head movements. I've already done the first bit of it, and as I had worked on it before, prior to getting the voices for Jamie. But now we'll be able to actually go back and finish the rest. Again, the reason why we do this and add in the head movements is to give a little more life to the character and maybe make them feel a little less robotic and lifeless. And that's about all I have for today. If I end up having another episode to this series, that's the next thing that you'll see. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of this footage, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a little thumbs up. And if you have questions, comments, or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below, so that I know, and so that I can keep providing you with something to watch. To check out the rest of this series, click on the TV, and if you want to see the first episode of Miserable Mac, click on the computer. For more of my other work, take a look at my YouTube page, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks again for watching.